going. Anyway, yeah. So that was a cool. That was a little side. We got sidetracked there, but the information was good. I thought so. Okay. Now, question number 4. What are we doing here? Is Phil likely to prevail in a suit against Delta High? Okay, so now we have the contracts question. Was this was this a straightforward question? I thought it was. I thought it was pretty straightforward. A lot of facts. All right, there's a lot here. Okay, let's just go through it and then yeah, this one honestly this one took me a little bit by surprise because there were so many issues there. So if I was taking this exam, I would want to ask myself, okay, where do I put in my counter argument? Where do I place it? Because there's so many, there's a lot of places there. Okay, but we're gonna focus on the big ticket issues. Let me go ahead and I think it's better if I read this because then we can start picking out, we can start cherry picking the issues. It says Phil worked as a science teacher at City High. His career goal, and that kind of threw me off. I'm like, why is it mentioning his career goal? And later on, I was gonna say, okay, well, that's because it's for Phil. It's what he's arguing is that it's gonna be that that his offer or his intended offer was the condition. It was important to him, right? But then again, what's on paper, right? That's what counts. How do you analyze these? His career goal was to become the head of the science department there. He believed that getting experience as a school administrator would help him to obtain his goal. All right, that's his goal. That's his goal. I mean, we all have goals. Great, great. Let's see. Let's see if we can help Phil out. In March 2023, again, contracts, these dates, you guys, very, very important. Give me a second. Phil learned at Delta High, a private school, private school, would help him to obtain his goal. Okay, wait a minute. In March, I'm going back here. In March 2023, Phil learned that Delta High, a private school, had a temporary 1-year opening for head of its science department next school year. Okay, so now we have a school year running from August 2023 to June 2024. Phil immediately applied. Okay, so then you focus on these, what I call juicy facts. Like, why are they saying immediately? Right. And then, of course, you start thinking statute of frauds. When does the date begin? So they gave you already the date March 2023. So we could already start thinking if the statute of frauds apply, it will start on March 2023, not when the school year begins, August 2023. See all these little facts that they're giving you. I mean, it's okay. A week later, the principal of Delta High telephoned Phil and offered him the job. Okay, again, he offered him the job. So anytime they give you something like this, that it's an offer, that would require confirmation. Okay, you guys will see what I'm talking about here in a bit. And offered him the job at a salary of 80,000. Phil said, "Okay, so now we have an offer, right? That's an actual offer. So the facts are right. We're confirming it's an offer." Then Phil said, "I'm only interested if I can be head of the science department." Okay, so is that an acceptance? Well, we know we're in the common law. Under the common law, we have the mirror image rule. So if the terms are not exact, and then it's not an acceptance. It's a rejection. It's a counter offer. Okay, so now we have Phil's offer here. It says, "I'm only interested if I can be head of the science department." All right. Then the principal responded, "Perfect." Okay, so if that was the only language, then of course that would be an acceptance to the offer. Then he goes on. It says, "A current head will be on leave. The job is half-time teaching and half-time administrator." So does that kind of alter the offer? these bar examiners, they don't really say yes, they don't really say no. Why? Because they want you to analyze it. You see that? That's what I said at the beginning. So even if you're able to hit all the issues, doesn't mean you're going to get a passing score. Or even if you don't hit all the issues, but you do a great analysis, your balance it couldn't mean that you get a passing score, right? So I thought, I'm like, man, these folks. When I saw that, I'm like, okay, it could go either way. So I'm just gonna say, just for purposes, for instructional purposes, I'm gonna say, hey, look, halftime teaching, halftime administrator. Well, I don't know if being head of the department of a science department, I don't know if that goes into actual teaching or as part of the administration aspect of the school. I don't know. So right, so I'm gonna say this is gonna be that I'm gonna say that the school that the principal is not accepting. I'm gonna say they're rejecting and now they're making their own offer. Okay. And so Phil says, I accept. So Phil accepted halftime teaching and halftime administration. Okay, great. So we have an acceptance there. And of course, I'll just emphasize that if you said something differently, that's fine. You just have to analyze it. Remember the instructions? All right. And the principal replied, great, I'll prepare the paperwork. Phil then told City High he was taking a 1 year leave of absence of the next school year. Okay, so then can we have to discuss? Okay, we discussed offer, we discussed acceptance, consideration is there, right? Uh, can be completed within the 1 year. So when does the 1 year start? In March 2023. So, and then when does it end? It ends in June 2024. So that cannot be completed within the year. So the statute of frauds applies. Okay. And going back to this, I'm only interested, and of course, it was the condition. All right, was that condition part of the offer? Well, according to me, it was not, because the offer was that he would teach halftime, and he would be an administrator for the other half. Okay, so that condition is out. If you said something else, great. Again, as long as he can substantiate it. Okay, so let's keep going. And remember, so because it cannot be completed within 1 year, the statute of frauds applies. All right. So this is not a full contract here. It's not a valid contract. It's not a valid oral contract, according to me, just on my own analysis. Okay. In May 2023, Phil received a letter from Delta High welcoming him on board and asking him to complete a form for payroll purposes. Okay, a letter. Remember what I said earlier, you guys, that they might have facts there. Um, and then, but it's your duty as a bar candidate, and especially as a practicing attorney, you have to confirm the content. You have to confirm what an item actually is. So it could be a letter, right? But it could also be the writing that's going to satisfy the statute of frauds. Okay. Here it says it's for payroll purposes, but we're already seeing, hey, maybe this letter could satisfy the statute of frauds. Okay, so look, the forms, it was signed by the principal. Um, was labeled, it was labeled temporary employment and included Phil's name, the employment duration, and salary of 80,000. The form stated nothing about the specific job title or duties. Instead, it stated the duties of all employees at Delta High are determined at the discretion of the school board or its principal and are subject to change. Okay, so is that a new term? Yes, it's a new term. Is it a modification? Well, in order to have a modification, you first need a valid contract. And I don't think we have one yet. Is it parole evidence? So, okay, so that could be the other language, right? Because it doesn't say that it's an integrated writing. Okay, so let me continue here. Okay, so according to these terms, the school, they can change. They can say, hey, look, this, we don't have to give you the head of the science department spot. Phil asked to fill his social security number and to sign and return the form, which he did. Okay, so I think that's when you have a valid contract, right? Because now you have the statute of frauds that is satisfied. Okay, but of course you want to, if you didn't discuss all these little issues, it's fine. Fine. For 65, it's fine. When Phil reported to work at Delta High in August 2023, the principal apologized and told him, our science department had canceled her planned leave. We'll still pay you the full salary, but you will only be teaching. Phil responded, I told you I would only do the job if I could head the science department. Okay, so again, he's holding on. Phil is holding on to that condition, that spot there. Okay. And he left the school. Phil then learned that City High had already hired a replacement for him. Okay, so he can't go back to his old job. He was offered a coaching job at 40,000. 40,000. Frustrated, Phil declined and took a 1-year position as a gardener with 30,000 salary. A few months later, okay, so he sues. Phil sued Delta High. Okay, so it's Phil likely to prevail in the suit against Delta High. Let's go ahead and answer that. As I stated before, uh, he accepted an oral terms, but then there was a writing with new terms, and that's what Phil is going to be subject to that writing there, where the science department can make changes. Okay, so and then we go into remedies. So the way I would discuss, even if you said, hey, look, whoever prevails on the suit, you would say, hey, look, if considering that if right, what remedies would be likely to Phil, assuming that Phil was right. Like, for example, like in my situation, I would say, hey, look, assuming that Phil prevailed, then we would have these remedies. Okay. So for remedies, there's two types of sets. I call these like two teams for remedies. You have your on team one, you have your expectation, consequential, incidental, reliance. And then on team two, you have the causation, foreseeability, certainty, and unavoidability. Most of you guys picked either one of these two. And then I'm sure you guys said something about the duty to mitigate. So if you pick team one here, okay, uh, you mentioned duty to mitigate. I think that's fine. If you did a hybrid of that, it's fine as well. And they love testing you on remedies because of this confusion with these two teams. I know it sounds confusing, but that's why I'm like, hey, look, let's just break it up into teams. And I'm eventually going to touch on the issues. But here, the question that you should be asking is whether Phil had a duty to accept that 40,000 is part of the duty to mitigate element. Okay. So I would just think something along the lines of whether it's a reasonable offer. Like I don't do employment law. I stay away from that. Okay, so if you for those of you guys who do like that type of area, that type of field, who studied employment law, then you would know that the term there would be compatible. Is it compatible to the offer, right? So if you didn't hit compatible, it's fine. Okay, but is it reasonable? Then it says that he eventually took something that gave him 30,000 the salary, right? So yeah, so it could go either way. So that's remedies. That's remedies. Okay, a lot of issues there. A lot of issues. Okay, with no. Okay, does anyone have any questions? Okay, if not, we're almost there, you guys.